Hey everybody, Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard here. It's finally here, the end of this new trilogy saga, Rise of Skywalker. What I like, what I dislike, how's it compared to the other movies in this trilogy, and how's it compared to the other Star Wars movies? Well, let's get into it. So you know where I'm coming from. Here is my hierarchy of all the Star Wars movies. I'm not going to go into specifics, although in a future video I will be doing a worst to best Star Wars movie because Rise of Skywalker is going to be the last Star Wars movie for a while. They're going to slow them down coming soon here. So I can finally kind of talk about where they all fit. So, where does Rise of Skywalker go on this list? Let's get into it. So Rise of Skywalker is brought to us once again by director J.J. Abrams, who did The Force Awakens, of course, the new Star Trek movies, at least the first one, and Into Darkness. He did that train monster movie. He's done a lot of sci-fi weird stuff. We all know J.J. Abrams. We all love J.J. Abrams. So the plot is, after the events of The Last Jedi, Kylo Ren's running around the universe destroying anything that could possibly come to question his power, while Rey is training on working and building up her Force abilities. They soon find that there is an planet of the Sith, and it's up to our heroes to find a device, a wayfinder, that would track them down to that planet so they can hopefully destroy the Sith once and for all. Without too many spoilers, that's the general gist of the Rise of Skywalker. So let's talk about the characters. Of course, it's the third in the trilogy, so we have everyone returning. We have Kylo Ren, Rey, Finn, Rose, Leia, Poe, BB-8, all your favorites, Chewbacca, C-3PO, R2-D2. They're all here. We're all friends. We all know how they work. No point in getting into all of them because we know their characters. But there are a few new ones I'd like to talk about. So my favorite new character in this movie is Zuri Bliss, played by... Really? Okay. Zuri Bliss, who's played by Keri Russell, Felicity herself. And she was freaking awesome. So she lives on this kind of junker planet, and she is a bit of a questionable character. She's a spice runner. She's a bounty hunter. She's kind of all over the place, and she knows Poe from his earlier kind of sinister dark days. And she likes to give Poe a lot of shit, and she tries to help out our characters in a jam. But I think, one, her design is very cool. I really like the design. And I think she showed a lot of character as a character. I'd like to see her, and if they're doing a next trilogy, I'd love to see her actually become more of part of that, if that's possible, and kind of see where we go from there. But I liked her a lot. She was very interesting and a very mysterious character, but also very cool. I liked her a lot. And we finally get the Knights of Ren that have been promised for 2 movies. The big fancy Knights of Ren. They're 4 guys in masks with axes. Ooh. I mean, I would say I'm surprised, and I don't... Maybe this is a spoiler. I hope not. I don't think it really is, but yeah, they don't do anything, and that's kind of what I thought would happen. Kind of when they hinted at it in Force Awakens, is like the Knights of Ren, and everyone made such a big deal about it. It's like, there's no way they're gonna live up to what everyone thinks they are, and yeah, they're not. They're 4 guys with masks and knives and things. They're just guys. Yep. And finally, another new character I'd like to talk about is Jana, played by Naomi Ackie, who I've never seen in anything. She is another defector stormtrooper, which is kind of interesting to play off of Finn being a former stormtrooper. And she's really cool. She's been living on this kind of island. She's been living on the forest moon of Endor, where the battle from Return of the Jedi took place. And been kind of living her life, staying out of the way of the Empire. But when time comes for her to step up and be a hero, she takes it. And she was very cool. I liked her as a hero, and she's very awesome. Of course, we have our new cute toy for everyone to collect. We got Dio. He's like BB-8's sidekick now. So now BB-8 has a sidekick. And BB-8's sort of R2-D2's sidekick, and it's sidekickception. Just everyone has their own little sidekick now. He didn't do anything. So what did Rise of Skywalker do well? Well, a lot of people were worried about that this one would just undo The Last Jedi, and I don't think it did. I think they played with what happened in The Last Jedi and continued off of that. I don't think they fully out-dismissed anything. They worked within that bounds. There's a little bit of messiness in there, which I'll get to in spoilers, but I don't think overall it undoes The Last Jedi. So I don't think it has to be drawn on lines if, like, you love The Last Jedi, you're going to hate this, but if you hated The Last Jedi, you'll love this. I think it's a bit more complicated than that. And I like that. I like a little bit more complication. I like that they, played with the continuity and worked with what they had and continued off of that, and didn't fully out-dismiss anything. So I think they worked with what was left from The Last Jedi very well, and it did some cool stuff with it. So the crimson red palette of The Last Jedi, which is kind of one of the main, things of The Last Jedi that makes it stand out. It had this crimson red palette. This one's like a very dark black palette, kind of playing into how much they're using the dark side in this movie. It's got some very creepy, scary, dark scenes, and I really like that. It's the darkest Star Wars ever really got was Revenge of the Sith. I think this one gets even darker than that. The palette is very dark. The themes are very dark. This is a very dark Star Wars movie, kind of coming full circle with kind of how bright and lively The Force Awakens was. It kind of comes full circle, and this is the opposite of that. And I think that was really cool. It had made for some very good scenes and some very cool moments. And overall, I think this is a very good and satisfying conclusion to this trilogy and, a bit of the Force Saga. We're kind of, gone through a trilogy of trilogies that has to do with the Skywalker family and with the Jedi themselves. And this kind of comes full circle with that. And eventually we can move on and see what else Star Wars has to offer us. But I think this is a good conclusion to that story, and it's very satisfying, and it works well. I think they pay tribute to a lot of things, and they really bring in a lot. So it's just a very solid conclusion to this saga. But no movie is perfect. Where does The Rise of Skywalker fall short? Well, it feels like it's kind of all over the place. Say what you will about the prequel trilogies, and I agree that they are bad. They had an overarching theme and idea. The first trilogy, the original trilogy, got a little messy at times, but overall, again, had that. This one, it feels like 3 different movies. It's got the same characters, and initially I liked the idea of having 3 different directors doing the trilogy, 3 different... they kind of did that with the original trilogy, depending on if you believe how much George Lucas had in Return of the Jedi or not. But overall, they had 3 different directors. So I like that idea, and maybe it got messy because they brought J.J. back, who did the first one. So he's trying to redo what the first one did, where it gets very muddy, and it gets a little bit all over the place. We're jumping all over the place. There's plot lines thrown in and taken out and brought up. And there's a big one, which again, I'll get into spoilers a bit, which I heard was completely made in reshoots. And when I thought about it, it made complete sense that it would have been through reshoots, because it doesn't actually matter throughout the rest of it. So it's sort of all over the place, and it kind of I think it would have been better if they would have given it to a completely different director. So let JJ have one, let Rian Johnson have one, and then give it to someone completely different to finish it out. I think it would have been a better idea, or give it to one person to do the entire trilogy. It was sort of this kind of half-ass mealy mouth, like, oh, well, we're getting some weird feedback from The Last Jedi, and then no one likes Solo, so let's make sure we, but everyone seemed to like The Force Awakens, so let's bring it back around to that, and it felt a lot like a lot of, standard company cover-up kind of things, just like, oh, paste it up with things that people like. And again, this one that JJ likes to do, he likes to do the greatest hits of a series. And this one's that again. This time it's Return of the Jedi. The ending has tons of parallels of Return of the Jedi. A lot of the themes are Return of the Jedi themes. This is Return of the Jedi 2.0, just like The Force Awakens was A New Hope 2.0. It's not necessarily that's bad per se, but I would have liked something more original and something a little different, because I can exactly see where this is heading, and it didn't seem that interesting, and it was. I'll get into more specifics in a minute, but it was the same things again, and it can get a little boring. And Kylo Ren's reassembled helmet tells a big story for this movie, that it's trying to reassemble broken pieces that may not have even been there. We saw Kylo go past needing the helmet. He's not just a wannabe Darth Vader. He is becoming his own man. But this movie kind of reverts him. And they're trying to piece together bits and pieces. I'm trying not to spoil too much. But yeah, they're trying to piece together bits and pieces that aren't really there, that The Last Jedi really broke. And I think that adds again to the more muddy nature of this movie, and that's not necessarily a very clear, concise story. It's more of just jamming stuff together to hopefully make a cohesive unit. And I really felt like that, and this one did that a lot. Okay, so I gotta get into spoilers, because a lot of this probably sounds like the ravings of a madman. So, fair warning now, spoiler sign, jump to this time code here if you want to skip spoilers, because we're doing spoilers. Are you ready? Last chance? Alright, spoilers. So, the biggest reveal of this movie is that Rey is Senator Palpatine's granddaughter. She's the Emperor's granddaughter. So, her parents were nothing because they had to be nothing to hide her. So, question on that. Yeah, Senator Palpatine didn't have a wife or anything in the prequel. Was someone banging him when he is looking like a fucking burnt up fucking s'more? Where did that come from? And this is where it sort of undoes some of what The Last Jedi did, because The Last Jedi making Rey nobody. She's her own hero. Doesn't have a lineage. Makes her a stronger character, because it's, basically saying you don't have to be defined by your lineage. You are who you are. You build yourself up. You don't have to be based around a family. You can build up your life. That's a great lesson to learn and have. This one's like, well, no, she's actually still related to somebody. It's kind of like when you find out an actor is actually related to somebody, and they've been able to build their career off of that, even though you thought they did it all on their own. It's a little disappointing. But what they did with it kind of worked and went in a good way. And this is the thing that I heard was completely done in reshoots. Because there's nothing specific about her being a Palpatine until the ending that really matters. Even when it's kind of shown, they could have said anything and done AVR to say, oh, you're a Palpatine. It didn't really seem to be a part of the movie until the end. And I found myself kind of waiting, like, okay, what are they going to do with this then? All right, fine, she's a Palpatine, okay, so what's the point? And you didn't get to it until the very end. And so, yeah, it felt very tacked on, too. Like, well, we got to make Rey somebody. Everyone was upset Rey was, her own person, so you got to make her somebody. Because we got to relate everyone to everybody. Everyone's related. Poe's probably, his dad is probably fucking Admiral Akbar or some shit. Because we can't do our own thing. We have to relate everything back to the original trilogy. Nothing can be new or exciting in Star Wars. That's what we've learned. No Star Wars fan wants new Star Wars. They just want you to repeat the same Star Wars. Sorry, a bit of a rant there. But that goes into also the return of Palpatine. And yeah, I don't care. I don't care that the Emperor is back. The point of The Last Jedi is that nostalgia is a trap, and you shouldn't fall for it. A lot of bad men have built themselves on the platform of remember the good times, and that was the point of The Last Jedi, is no, destroy nostalgia. We need to do new things. We need to, go new places, not only with stories, but in life. You gotta just start new things. And when you're coming off of that, and you're like, well, look who's back! You're like, the last movie told us don't care who's back. Remember, it's time for the Jedi and the Sith to die. It's time to release the past. Look who's back! Like, I don't care. I mean, it wasn't necessarily bad, and it could be quasi-explained, and it wasn't anything like that. It was just more of, so it's the Emperor again. What did the Emperor really do in the original trilogy besides sit on a throne? He wasn't even that great of a character to begin with. I'm sorry, hate me everyone out there, but he wasn't that great of a character to begin with. So you're just going to be like, oh, look who's back! And it was just more of, trying to reignite nostalgia when we should know, no, nostalgia's a trap. But not all reveals were bad. And I don't mean to kind of crap on this movie. I'm going to give you my final thoughts in a bit, but I don't mean to sound like I'm totally crapping on this movie. But there was the reveal that the First Order has a mole, and it was Hux. And I think that worked so goddamn well. I really loved that reveal that Hux was such a dick about Kylo that he became a mole just because he fucking hates Kylo that much. And I thought that was great. The reveal that Hux was a mole was fantastic. I loved it. It was absolutely awesome. So that was very cool. So not all the reveals are bad. That was very cool. Alright, finally, the ending. So, yeah, the ending was just the Return of the Jedi ending. So we had a ground troop who had to do the thing so the space troops can do their thing. And then the space troops are getting shot down because the people on the ground aren't doing their thing. This had the additional secondary ground troop who we don't see, who are pulling in backups for this team. And then there's also a force battle going on with only the force sensitive people, and they can only sit by and watch their rebellion get destroyed. Yeah, that's both movies. And yeah, if you like that kind of thing in that sort of ending, yeah, that's great, but I wanted to see something new and different. I've seen that. Honestly, the Revenge of the Sith ending was a little bit stronger than that, and that was a kind of shit ending, so yeah, it had some cool scenes because of it, but it was just the same ending over again, showing kind of JJ needs to just redo things. He can't quite do original things. So, yeah. Alright, enough spoilers, so let's just go ahead and wrap this up. In the end, it was a bit of a mixed bag, but I found myself very much enjoying Rise of Skywalker. It was a fun ride with some great battles going on and some really cool things going on. Although I do think it's the weakest of this new trilogy, but that doesn't mean it's a bad movie in any sense of the word. I think it's still very good and still above a lot of the crap Star Wars stuff. Trust me, there is some really, really bad Star Wars stuff. Have you guys seen the Ewok movies? Yeah, I didn't think so. But I think it's still pretty top tier Star Wars, and I find myself very much enjoying it. So I'll give it the rating of see it in theaters. You know, finish out this saga, and I hope they go somewhere new and different with the next trilogy, and I hope they give themselves a little bit of time, because I think Star Wars fatigue is definitely setting in for a lot of people. Getting a Star Wars movie every single year, I think, is officially weighing on people, and there's also just... It takes away a little bit of the magic of it. When The Force Awakens came out, it was such like this big, like, oh my god, Star Wars is back, yes, we're all excited. And then after, what's it been, like 6 years of a Star Wars every single year, we're just kind of like, yeah, it's another Star Wars. So, anyways... Yes, so what do you think of Rise of Skywalker? Let me know in those comments below. Hit that thumbs up because this is my last standard regular review. See my video about the future of my channel coming up, but this is going to be my last regular movie review. And share this video with anyone possible. That would be very helpful to me. But I'm Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard. Until next time, hold on to your hold slots.
Was just two and hardly a dude. A movie came out, gave us hope that was new. No stop on the beta, it made us demented. We get how awards if the tape had been running when I was just 8 and in the 3rd grade. ROTJ was well worth the wait. We heard we see Java, his palace and shit. Heard saying rumors came out a quick clip. Remember book fairs, a bookshelf with wheels. Mad Libs and Garfield are very good deals. You fill out a form and make your selections, and in a few weeks you wait at the collection. One kid got a book about the new movie. We read through it.